In a world that never pauses, where time moves faster than thoughts and people keep running without ever questioning where they are actually headed, there exists a quiet and almost invisible difference between those who merely pass through life and those who truly shape it. And that difference is not intelligence, not background, and not even opportunity alone, but something far deeper, something that silently controls the direction of every decision, every sacrifice, and every moment of persistence, and that is the presence of a clear and meaningful goal. There was once a young man named Ethan, living in a crowded American city filled with noise, ambition, competition, and endless distractions, where every street seemed to carry someone else's dream. And every screen he looked at showed people achieving things he could only imagine. And yet, despite being surrounded by opportunities, despite having access to knowledge, tools, and inspiration, Ethan felt something missing deep inside, something he could not explain but could feel every single day: a lack of direction. Every morning, he woke up with the same routine, checking his phone, scrolling through social media, watching clips of successful people talking about discipline, money, passion, and success, feeling motivated for a few minutes, and then slowly falling back into the same pattern of confusion, because motivation without clarity was like fire without fuel, strong for a moment, but impossible to sustain. And although he tried different things, starting new habits, planning new routines, and even setting short-term targets, nothing stayed consistent because there was no deeper reason holding everything together. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly months slipped away, and while from the outside it looked like Ethan was trying, experimenting, and staying busy, inside he felt stuck, as if he was walking in circles, putting in effort but going nowhere. And this silent frustration began to grow into self-doubt, making him question not just his actions, but his abilities, his future, and even his worth. One evening, after a long and exhausting day of doing things that felt important but meaningless at the same time, Ethan found himself sitting alone on the rooftop of his building, looking at the endless lights of the city stretching into the distance, each light representing a life, a story, a purpose. And in that moment, he felt smaller than ever. Not because he lacked potential, but because he lacked direction. He sat there lost in his thoughts. He noticed an old man sitting quietly at the edge of the rooftop, someone he had seen before but never spoken to, a man who seemed calm in a way that felt almost unfamiliar in a city filled with chaos. And after a few moments of hesitation, Ethan walked up to him and asked a simple question, a question that carried the weight of everything he had been feeling. "Why does life feel so directionless even when I am trying so hard?" The old man looked at him, not with surprise, but with understanding, as if he had once asked the same question himself, and after a brief silence, he spoke slowly, telling Ethan that effort without direction is one of the most exhausting things a person can experience, because it creates the illusion of progress while silently keeping you stuck in the same place, like running endlessly in a desert without knowing where water is, where no matter how fast you move, you are only draining your energy without getting closer to survival. Those words did not change Ethan instantly, but they stayed with him, echoing in his mind long after that conversation ended. And that night, for the first time in a long time, he did not open his phone, he did not search for motivation, and he did not distract himself, but instead, he sat alone with his thoughts, forcing himself to confront questions he had always avoided, questions about what he truly wanted, what kind of life he imagined for himself, what kind of person he wanted to become, and most importantly, what would make all his struggles meaningful. The answers did not come easily, because clarity is not something that appears instantly. It is something that demands honesty, patience, and the courage to face uncertainty. And for several days, Ethan continued this process, writing down his thoughts, removing distractions, observing his interests, his strengths, and even his fears, slowly moving from confusion toward understanding, from noise toward silence, and from randomness toward direction. From that day forward, nothing about his external world changed immediately. The city remained the same, the challenges remained the same, and the difficulties did not disappear, but internally, everything was different. Because now every action he took was connected to something bigger. Every effort had a purpose, and every day became a step instead of just time passing. He began to structure his life differently, not based on mood or temporary motivation, but based on his goal. And even when he felt tired, even when progress seemed slow, and even when failures occurred, he continued moving forward, because now he had something that most people lack: a reason. As weeks turned into months, Ethan started noticing changes, not dramatic or sudden, but steady and real. As his focus improved, his confidence grew, and his ability to stay consistent became stronger. And the same city that once felt overwhelming began to feel full of opportunities, not because the city had changed, but because he had finally found direction within himself. And one evening, standing once again on that same rooftop where everything had started, looking at the same lights that once made him feel lost, Ethan realized something that changed his understanding of success completely, something deeper than just achieving a goal, because he understood that the goal itself was not just a destination, but a tool. A force that shapes who you become in the process, that transforms confusion into clarity, weakness into strength, and fear into determination. A goal is not just something you achieve at the end of a journey, but something that gives meaning to the journey itself, because without a goal, even your best efforts become scattered and directionless. But with a goal, even your smallest steps gain value. Even your failures become lessons, and even your struggles become necessary parts of growth, shaping you into a person capable of achieving far more than you once believed.